Sway in the morning, Shade 45. Hey, man. We got a guy who's an all-around renaissance, man. I mean, he's been on the show so many times. I could combine all my intros and probably give him just a super mega intro. Mm-hmm. You know, this dude is interesting to me. He's a record producer, a songwriter, a performer, a stage performer, an excellent actor, a director, and he's an author. You know, and a responsible father, family man, excellent friend. He used to, you know, play video games at Heather's house. You know what I mean? How bad could this guy be?
Shut up, Sway. That was the 90s.
But also, man, he's an inspiration, you know, for dudes like me because, you know, we got to take seriously when we're in the public eye, we on these cameras, on these big screens, whether we want to believe it or not. You know, there's a lot of dudes just like you that's watching, same age, you know, came up in the same time period. And so watching his work, you know, he became a beacon of inspiration or confirmation for work we were doing at the same time over on the West Coast. But this book he got, From Fatherless to Fatherhood, kind of touched me at the core of my heart, and I realized that, damn, man, me and this dude we kind of live similar parallel lives and have parallel experiences that had nothing to do with entertainment. Welcome him back to the show, the one and only Omar Epps.
Oh! Yes, sir.
I mean, the new season of Shooter is up too right now.
Yep.
Ryan Phillippe and Ryan. Did you ever see when Ryan came up here and spit bars?
Yeah, I did. I think.
Okay, yeah.
You know, he's a hip hop head.
Yeah, he's a hip hop head.
Yeah,
like
for real.
On the set, do y'all talk about hip hop?
All the time. That's all we talk about.
That's all you talk about.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
What you think of him as a rapper on a scale of 1 through 10?
You know, he could get his bars up.
He can get his bars.
You know, the MC and me gonna come out.
All right, cool. But this book, From Fatherless to Fatherhood, I think it's important for especially folks. You ain't even gotta be just in the black community or the white community or the Asian community or Latino community. It affects us all.
Exactly.
Across the board. A lot of us aren't growing up with fathers, but we're black. And Heather brought up a point the other day when who was it?
It was James Harden.
James Harden received a league MVP. And he had his mother there, and his father wasn't there, and we've seen that before with
Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Year after year after year, I feel like we watch so many men talk about their mothers and what their mothers had to be mothers and fathers and what they were to do, and why I'm always, you know, we're friends, we're family, we talk, but why I salute O so much and been talking about this book forever, because he's not just a father but a husband and a father, and that combination is even rarer at this point. You know, people like, I got kids, but you don't see the dual thing going on.
You don't see the dual thing, and you definitely don't see it enough in the black community, if at all. You know, and that's where we grew up, in the black community. What made you write this book? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, what made me write the book was I had a moment with my son one day. You know, I worked 15-hour day. You know, I just wanted to come home, you know, have a beer, go to sleep. And, you know, wifey was like, yo, he's still up. And I'm like, all right, I'll get to it. But in my head, I was like, at least I'm here. And that kept echoing in my head, like, where'd that come from? And because obviously I love all my kids, right? And so I'm like, where did the origin of that thought come from? And it made me realize, or question, had growing up fatherless somehow crept into my fatherhood, you know? And I was like, man, and I just began this journey to explore that. And it started coming out, and like midway through, you know, to explore my life from almost like a third person point of view. And midway through, I realized, like, man, maybe my story can be used as a tool of inspiration, you know, because there's thousands upon thousands of us that, you know, it's like normalized. Like I talk about in the book, you know, growing up, I only knew two of my homies that knew their father, and we used to look at them like the weirdos.
Yeah,
wow.
You know what I mean?
Like,
and so as a grown man, when you think about that, that's bizarre. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, man. It's still a pandemic. We've made a lot of strides as a community, you know, in terms of fatherhood. We have, but you know, on the streets, and it's a lot of cats. It's just not taking care of their kids, and I also want to try to help change the narrative on that. Like, it ain't cool. You a lame if you don't hold your child down. You know what I mean? To really make that a trend even. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that, and it's interesting because your father left when you were 2, right? And I believe I was 2 or 3 when our father left. You know, I'm the youngest of 3. It didn't affect me. I didn't think it affected me, but because I had a grandfather that was there who was really strong, you know. But when you write about in the book at those times, and we're talking the 70s, you know, a lot of the leaders that we looked up to were, you know, a lot of them were in blaxploitation films. A lot of these guys portray roles as pimps or whatever type of activity they were involved in that were kind of like hyper promoted in a sense that we kind of look towards people that weren't real for guidance, right? You went through that?
Yeah, I mean, imagery, the power of imagery is real, you know, so, and I talk about that in the book from like, you know, the blaxploitation films and, you know, how the men are portrayed, how they treat women. You know, this putting these things in your head, right? And at the same time, like for me, you know, Good Times was it. It was like, oh, it's a black family and projects. I can relate to that. You know what I mean? And then, you know, they inundating you with that imagery. For me, The Cosby Show was the first time that I saw a functional black family that seemed happy.
Facts.
Well, you know what I mean? And it was like, I want to live like that. I want to be that. I want to be like that when I become a dad, or if I become a dad. You know what I mean? So the power of imagery is paramount.
How did you deal with the bitterness, you know, as a child? Like, I'm trying to go back into that mind frame of how I thought. You know what I mean? And because I was the youngest, I probably didn't feel it the same way as my older brother or my sister, you know, that void of that father figure, because they got a few more years than I did as children. In the end, we all came together, so I'm glad about the ending. You know, but I remember times I remember a couple of times seeing him during elementary, you know, and I didn't even know what to call him. I remember being in 2nd grade. And he took us to Toys R Us. You know, I remember getting out of school at 2:30 when we used to get out at 2:35, but for some reason I thought I was getting out of school early. It was because of my father. And then we got to Toys R Us, and I was like, I wasn't familiar to what to call them. And I think something inside me was probably bitter, and I didn't know how to deal with it as a kid. Did you go through that with your father? Like, did y'all have relations during your childhood?
Nah, I met my father one time in my whole life when I was 12, and that was it for 4 days. And so when you think about that in the scope of a life, I'm 44 years old. You know, it's crazy. But the bitterness is real when you a kid, you know. But because my mom, I come from such an incredibly strong, beautiful black woman. You know, I wouldn't be here without Mom Dukes. But she loved me so much, and she fed me that love and that sense of self-worth so much that I used the bitterness as fuel. It was like, oh, all right, you just gonna. You know, and this is when I'm a little kid. It's like, yo, I'm going to be somebody. And I'm not even talking about fame. I'm talking about whatever. I might have been a teacher, but it was like, I'm going to make something in my life, and you got to carry that. This is what I would think in my head when I was a kid. But then life happens, and it happens in waves and ebbs and flows. And once, you know, I became a father myself, there's all these other things start resurfacing, you know, because I had some good, really solid father figures in my life growing up. The 2 friends that I mentioned, like their fathers were dope. Like, you know, drop jewels, and you could see how they move. But once you become a father, it's like there's no, I didn't have no blueprint. I didn't have no, so it was like, and that's kind of scary. But for me, I was like, all right, well, we're going to start here. Because it's not just me, it's in my bloodline, the issue of fatherlessness was a thing. And I felt like, yo, all right, well, the buck's going to stop with me. And I just took that on, like, yo, I'm willing to be the guinea pig. I'm going to take that on. So when I lay this line down for generations to come, God willing, it's like the men in my family is going to step up to the plate.
Your mother started dating again when you were younger. She dated an Asian guy? What was that? How old were you when she started dating a Chinese guy?
I was like 6. I was young.
What did you think of that?
I didn't think nothing of it at the time, to be honest with you, because I was so young. It wasn't, you know, it was just one of them things where it was just like, when we would be around, it'd be like, who's that dude? Like, you know what I mean?
That's real.
They'd be like, but it wasn't really a thing because he didn't make a thing. Like, he was just, used to ride out and he had style. He used to listen to R&B music. You know what I mean? He used to go skiing. He's the one that got me into football. So it was just that part of it was organic. But again, you as you're growing up, you're like, you having these issues. Where's the dude that I look? Because I look just like my pops. So you have these issues like where's that dude? Where's the dude that I look like? And these things. I'm telling you, man. I mean, like you growing up without a father, it'll give a person so many issues to that they spend their life trying to unpack.
The whole I'm the spitting image of when I read the book, I was like, damn, is this Omar Calloway? Because it forced me to think of things that I really haven't dealt with. To me, the overarching messaging in this book is breaking cycles, number one. And no matter what your excuse is, regardless, some people don't get along with their kid's mother if they're not together in a loving relationship.
It don't matter.
It don't matter. Some people, it might be, I don't know, you feel like you ain't got enough money, or you're working too much. It don't matter. Whatever your excuses are to not being around your kid, or whatever you selling yourself while you're not with your kid, you gotta fucking sweep that shit under the rug.
Exactly.
And get beyond that. My mother never said anything negative about my father to us. You know what I mean?
She didn't have to.
She didn't have to, right? Did that happen in your household at all?
Yeah, pretty much. My mother, she never would speak on it, unless I never really asked, but she didn't have to speak on him negatively because his absence spoke for itself, and something you just alluded to. It doesn't matter. There's so many different scenarios, and I try to touch on some of them as examples in the books of what can happen between two people, how it can go down, how, and I even try to speak to women a lot to just consider certain things. But when it comes down to it, when you're choosing to have a child with another person, that's a lifelong commitment that you're making with that person. So people have to keep that in mind before even making that choice. So because once you coming into it, if you keep the child first, no matter what happens between y'all, everything should work smoothly because y'all keeping the child first. Even if the relationship, takes on a different form of y'all breaking up, y'all both, keeping the child first. Because those excuses is crazy.
Yeah.
People will have a laundry list of excuses, and at the end of the day, I'll just be sitting there like, yeah, but that's your kid though. That's your kid though.
Yeah. And you say this in the book, these are things I've told myself. Like with my father, I just want to say this for the record. When I got to become an adult and I got a chance to spend time with him, I had nothing but joy for the opportunity to spend that time with him, and I told him thank you, because I don't know what his circumstances were.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't fault him. I don't judge him or blame him. I really don't know what his circumstances were.
Right.
And even though he may not have been there in the physical all the time, and it's different relationships between me, my brother, and my sister. Always felt like he was present in the spirit. Always felt like there was a connection. Sometimes he would show up to my track meets and different things like that. And for me, that was enough because I was getting by like, cool. That acknowledgement alone, I carry your name, that to me was amazing. That was enough for me to go, okay, cool, man, whatever. I don't know his circumstances. And towards the latter part of his life, I got a chance to sit and communicate with him for hours and just thank him and share with him all the stuff I had accomplished. And so what I was able to do is say, man, thank you for the air you put in my lungs. That's all I needed.
Right.
I'm not sure what it would have turned out like, in different situations. Could have turned out even better, man. I don't know.
Right.
But the shit turned out good.
Right.
For me. So, and so I got a chance to tell him I love him. I got a chance to spend time with him in the whole nine. And he's from a different generation that comes from different cycles in the whole nine. But This book is called From Fatherless to Fatherhood by Omar Epps. And I don't know if you're a kid that grew up fatherless, but now you're a father. But let's open up the phone lines. You want to do that?
Yeah.
You got a question real quick?
I do. I think I want to commend both of y'all because I've spoken to you about this before, Sway. Both of y'all have daughters. And what I think that's dope, y'all don't realize that what you're planning in your daughters is the fact that y'all will be father-in-laws one day. And I don't think a lot of black men realize there's a whole host of black women, because we marry black men that don't have father-in-laws because the fathers were not around. And nobody ever thinks about that dynamic. It's always like my mother-in-law. It's like we're taking her son from her, bringing him into this household, and then the communication cease. So there's this thing, and there's no balance because the fathers are not around.
Right.
So nobody ever thinks about the fact that when you see these marriages and why marriages don't work sometimes, there's not a lot of father-in-laws present either, for black women to go to.
That's
we
deep.
don't have that balance. So I salute y'all for what y'all doing, raising y'all daughters, because you will be father-in-laws one day, which I think is amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. We're going to come back. We got, DB didn't grow up. You didn't grow up with your father either, right?
I haven't seen him since I was 7.
Wow. We're gonna hear about that story too. This is a book for you, man. We're gonna open up these phone lines, 888-742-3345. Call us. Omar Epps is here. Lulu.com, BarnesandNobles.com. Where else can they get it?
iBooks.
iBooks.
From Fatherless to Fatherhood.org.
Okay. DB, if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm listening to the conversation, and just like you two are bonding over like the similarities of your childhood, and I sort of had the same situation. Saw my father last time when I was 7 years old. We moved to Texas, just me and my mom, and she never really said anything bad about him because, like you said, she didn't have to, you know what I mean? But she always encouraged me to try to go and see him, which I kind of felt like, shouldn't he try to find me? Like, that's not my responsibility. I didn't bring myself into this world. And so, and Heather, the same situation, when I explained the situation with her, she always tried to encourage me, like, you know what? Because she has a brother who wasn't close with her, with the dad, right? Or it was somebody that you were telling me that reunited with their father.
Oh, a friend of mine.
A friend of mine. I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm like,
So,
shit, my brothers know they
yeah. I'm fucking up. Yeah. I'm like, no, but in seriousness though, but Heather would always try to say, like, I really think that you should go and try to find out where he is, what happened to him, and try to get that closure. Yeah. And I personally, I hear it, but it's like, at this age, like, what is there really to find out or to know, or like, what's it going to solve for me? You know what I mean? Like, what's he going to provide?
It's not even that. I hear you, because I used to be in that space. And so I'll tell you this, like, I met my father when I was 12, right? In that time, my little sister was 6 weeks old. He had another daughter. And then, he disappears again. And I come back into my sister's life when she's 11. So I'm 21 at the time. And then when I turned like 25, I tried to reach out to my father, because it's a sense of closure. It's not really a closure. It's just a level of you having peace with that void. You know what I'm saying? I tried when I was 29. I tried through my 30s to open up this, for us to have a relationship, because I told him I've forgiven him. I said, everything happens for a reason. I said, I don't know your story. I'm old enough to know that you have a whole story, and at the end of the day, for me and him, a relationship is not a monologue. It has to be a dialogue. And so for some reason with my pops, I feel, in my opinion, like he wasn't a willing participant. But I did make those efforts, and so at the end of the day, I've been at peace with it. You know what I mean? It's not an issue that makes me emotional, makes me this. I just have true peace. But I think it's worth you trying to reach out, because at least you made that effort. You know what I mean? Like, how powerful is that in you to have been subjected to that, and forgiven that enough to, all right, well, let me reach out. Let me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's worth a shot.
I think just the last thing I'm gonna say, but it's also that fear of the rejection of, like, because I'm cool with it now. But if I reach out and then he doesn't want to have any kind of like relationship or whatever with me, then that will make me, those feelings will come back even twice as hard. You know what I mean? Like, well, fuck you then. You know what I mean? So,
but I think you would be at peace. It's just my opinion. I think you would be at peace, because even if he did that, well, I tried. You know what I mean? Because if it goes the other way and you always sit around, I woulda, shoulda, coulda, maybe I shoulda, you'll have questions that won't have an answer, but at least, you know what I mean?
I'm gonna tell you this, man. When I was always happy to see my father. The times that I saw him, man, whatever you feeling, you probably would see him and all of that shit. Probably because now look at you in your 30s now. Your life is good. You dealt with some things, but you coming out on top. You'll see him as a human. He's a father, but he's a human. To Omar's point, and it's like I every time I saw my father, it was always like, oh wow, because it's a spiritual thing. You're gonna feel a connection spiritually when you look at this person and realize, damn, I came from him.
Right.
You're gonna look at these layers, a spiritual layer to it too. That
Absolutely.
that I think you would probably, even regardless of what he's on, what he's about. It is a personal thing, a personal gratification that you're gonna sense.
Yep.
Really quickly, I'm interested, Omar, why do you feel like when it comes to women who have absent fathers, oftentimes it's just dismissed as daddy issues, is used as a tool to further weaken them, but then I feel like oftentimes we're more open to hearing conversations from men who have been without their father. Just really quickly, why do you think there's that divide?
That's deep. I never really thought about that before. Where would that divide be? Because I know in my life, like the women who haven't had their fathers, as friends or whatever, and when you talk to them about certain issues, for me, because I didn't have a father, I relate. Like, I relate to, some of their emotions. It obviously is different between a father and a daughter, but I know, I've had plenty of conversations with women trying to unpack these things, and you try to help console, or you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
but when you say there's a divide, you just don't see that conversation enough?
Yeah, like even for instance, say a woman is expressing herself sexually, she's just free in that arena, you know what I mean? And she has an absentee father, people will just automatically be like, she's a hoe, she got daddy issues. It's used very dismissively, I always hear with women.
I see
but
what you're saying.
wouldn't it be a guy without a father has daddy issues in a sense too, but it's never...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of men without fathers have a lot of anger issues. I mean, it's a lot of these kids is out here wilding. A lot of that you can trace back to, okay, it's not judging nobody, but you can trace back like, yo, that kid don't have his father. He's carrying around a lot of angst and anxiety, and you know what I mean?
You even say in the book for boys, your mother could do so much, but you feel like, a male presence probably could have helped. And men have whole issues too. We just don't identify it the same way. But it's true. It's like a double standard.
Yes,
is what you're saying, and it really isn't. Whatever, issues. We all got similar issues. We just don't, because it's usually men who are identifying the issues.
Right.
But you even say with little boys that it might act out differently. I don't think people being promiscuous is necessary. I stopped saying that when my daughter was born, daddy issues, it's just it's really love issues probably, or whether it's the daddy or the mom,
right?
But you believe though that as great as you turned out, having a father there would have made a difference in you at all?
Absolutely, because all right, so you grew up without a father or any traumatic thing, we rationalize as human beings. So the other day somebody was like, well, look at you made it and you turned out well. If your father was in your life, maybe you wouldn't, that wouldn't have happened. And I'm like, or maybe I would be smarter, better. Maybe I would be more, we don't know. We'll never know, but we rationalize the trauma to be able to keep our sanity and move forward. You know what I mean? So ultimately, I believe that, a father, in the same ways from a mother to a daughter, a father to a son, there are certain subtleties and those connections that only those people can give. Like I said, my mother is the most incredible woman I know, but she's my mother. She's a woman. There's certain subtleties of this existence that she could take me only but so far, and then a man has to have been there.
Let's take some phone calls. The book is From Fatherless to Fatherhood. Omar Epps is here. You can get it on iBooks, Lulu.com, Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com. Raghu is from Washington. What you want to say? Real quick.
Hey.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for letting me be on today.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add to the conversation. when I grew up, my father couldn't be around because my mom moved on to another relationship. But
oh damn, the line cut out. All right, hold up. Terrence is in Atlanta. Go ahead. What would you like to say?
Terrence.
Man, look, I called in a couple years ago about a similar situation. My dad I grew up with my dad, but he had an outside kid. We stayed outside, shot the fair one. We boys, but Sway, you helped me out because I was able to sit down, talk to him, figure out why he did what he did. Understood that he put the child first, just like y'all saying. I have a daughter myself. Me and my wife, we put our child first. Our relationship has gotten stronger. My father and our relationship has gotten stronger because what I hated in him is actually what I was afraid of growing up being. I didn't have no outside kids, but it's a simple fact that just listening to what y'all are saying, I was able to build my relationship and I see what I could do in my daughter's life. So
that's dope. Salute, bro.
Really
Salute to you.
bro.
Man, Terrence, I'm glad we made that connection, man, and I'm glad you're still rocking with us. Make sure you get his book, okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm about to download it.
All right, cool.
Book.
You a citizen, family.
Good morning, homie.
Man, that's pretty dope, right? I was going to say grope. All right. Jay, what up, man? Jay in Washington. What you want to say?
Jay, what's Gucci?
What's good, everyone? Good morning. I'm out here in Seattle. It's early for me.
That's what's up, bro.
But, Mr. Epps, I'm a big fan of yours. Love what you do. And
Thank
just
you.
listening on you talk, and you have a valid point. I grew up without my father. He left my mother right when I was born. So about when I was 6, I was told that he passed away. But I never cried because I didn't know him.
Right.
So as I got older, had kids of my own, got married, and we had kids, then I'm starting this whole parenting thing. I'm like, man, I'm missing something. It was always that, like, am I doing it the right way? Because I never had, a father around to show me, this is how parenting goes. This is what needs to be done. So unfortunately, my mother passed away before I really started questioning her about my dad because he had passed when I was so young. So I did a bunch of researches, went online, and actually tracked it down. My father, his family, and then after meeting him after 30-some years, 'cause I'm 40, and find out I have a sister out there, and talking to uncles that I never knew, and one uncle's like, man, I've been looking for you for 30-some years because he's the only one my father told about, me, told him about me because no one else was tracking me. So after talking to them, they're like, man, you followed the same footsteps as your father almost because we both joined the military. And you look just like him because I never had really pictures of him. You look just like him. So as I got older, I was
Jay,
doing that, I feel, yeah.
We gotta go. Okay.
It showed me some clearance that, you need your father in your life.
No doubt. Keep doing your thing, bro.
Yeah.
Keep doing your thing for sure.
All right, and make sure you pick up this book.
I appreciate you guys letting me talk.
Oh, no problem, man. But I'm glad you did the research. You did the walk.
Yeah.
You're a citizen, bro.
Sway in the morning.
All right, then we got Joel from Compton, David in Virginia, AJ in Yonkers, Elvis in Chicago, Dennis in Minnesota, Ryan in Colorado, John in Cali, Don in Texas. Hit up Omar directly. Hit him up on his social media.
Yes, sir.
What's your social, Omar?
Omar Epps everywhere, Facebook, IG, Twitter.
He said that like you know what it is. Wait.
Right.
Come on, man. All right. Man, thank you, bro. Thank you. Hey, man.
Yes.
Thank you, man. Writing this book, man.
Powerful.
And
Appreciate you, brother.
oh, absolutely, man. I don't. You got a chance to let me talk about my father, man. And I normally won't go that deep, but I loved him, and and I know all this that I am, it came from that too.
Right.
I've been really in tune with my father's side too. It's just you just learn so much about yourself that you don't know. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing your story, man. Heather, how can you be reached?
At the Happy Hour WHB.
Twitter, Instagram for me, citizens at It's Tracy G, ITSTRACYG.
Everywhere, it's really DB.
Remember, comedy show this weekend, right, DB?
That's right. Tomorrow, June 30th at 12 midnight at Caroline's. Citizens, hit up. You can send an email to the 12midnight@gmail.com. We're going to put some free people on the list.
All right.
At DJ Wonder everywhere.
All right. Hey, is the list still open for next July 13th? We're celebrating our 7th anniversary. We had to. It's what?
Rap City.
Man, the list got packed so quick, Heather, we had to shut it down.
I've been promoting it at night too because we got to. This Sway in the Morning 7th anniversary. This party gonna be right. Poppin', Zaddy.
All right, next week a lot of us are gonna be on vacation. Tracy will be here holding it down for a couple of days, you know. So y'all be safe. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for rocking with us. Thank you to our guest today. We had Casanova today.
Knock your teeth out. Knock your teeth out.
Commissary is the name of his EP.
It's out now.
It's out now. We also had
Bumpy Knuckles, aka Freddie Fox.
All right, and pick up his
man EP. Rap.
Yeah, and his man Rap, and pick up his album too.
That's right. It's out now.
Okay.
Well. Him and Knots.
Okay, and then Omar Epps, man. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we have nothing left to say.